Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. I'm actually very excited to talk to you today for about a half hour, plus or minus, about the end of annual performance reviews. So, what's happening when redesigning performance for a modern workforce? It's changed a lot. So, I'm Heidi Grecsek, Managing Director at Brandon Hall Group. I've been here for quite some time. I'm excited to speak with you about this topic. I have spent 25 years in leadership, a lot of that time in a scientific company leading project management, project delivery, and ultimately a large marketing organization. And throughout all of that, worked very, very closely with HR and of course, constant performance reviews. I purposefully actually personally picked this topic. It's for two reasons. One, it surfaced, honestly, it just flat out surfaced in our research as one of the top issues that HR is facing today. And two, my personal experience in both performing them and giving them. Agonizing over were they smart? How would an employee interpret this, etc. I was just very interested in what the latest trends are and what Brandon Hall, as they do research of leading organizations, have tons of data around what's working, what's not working, and what's changed. So I've learned a lot when researching and being here, and I'm excited to share that with you and speak to you today about this topic. But before we dive into the details, which I think you're going to enjoy, I have Ivy on the line who's going to take through some of the logistics and some of the details around the Brandon Hall Group. So take it away, Ivy.
Thank you, Heidi. Before we dive into today's content, let me tell you about Brennan Hall Group and some incredible opportunities that could accelerate your career. Brennan Hall Group is a leading research and analyst firm dedicated to advancing human capital excellence. Our vision is a world where every HR organization drives business transformation through human capital excellence. For more than 30 years, Brennan Hall Group has provided CHROs, CLOs, and workforce leaders with the intelligence, insights, advisory, and community they need to make better human capital decisions and improve business outcomes. Our independent research, strategic advisory, excellence councils, professional development programs, and globally recognized HCM excellence awards help organizations strengthen capability, reduce execution risk, and accelerate workforce transformation. Trusted by more than 10,000 organizations worldwide, Brennan Hall Group serves corporate organizations and human capital management solution providers across learning and development, leadership development, talent management, talent acquisition, inclusion, human resources, AI, and the future of work. As a reminder, there is still time to submit for the Excellence in Technology and Excellence in Education Technology Awards with a deadline of September 4th. Excellence in Action isn't due until September 25th. The Brennan Hall Group Eminence Program brings together the intelligence, guidance, and executive collaboration leaders need to navigate today's workforce challenges and prepare for what's next. We also have incredible learning and networking opportunities. Our two BRIC events happening later this year, our AI Summit on October 15th and our Leadership Summit on November 17th and 18th. And don't forget to save the date for next year's 2027 HCM Excellence Conference happening January 26th through the 28th. All details for everything I've mentioned will be available in a PDF you'll receive within 24 hours after the webinar. Now, based off everything I just went over, I would like to launch a poll question. What would you like to learn more about? Is it our Eminence program, our awards program, 2027 HCM Excellence Conference, or maybe it's one of our BRIC summits? I will leave this up for just a few more seconds. Thank you, everyone. Alrighty, thank you. Now, just a few quick things to note if you have any questions during the webinar. Please use the questions panel on your control bar. We'll be answering them throughout the session. We're also recording today's webinar, and you'll receive an email within 24 hours with a link to the recording and a PDF of the slides. The chat box is open, so feel free to share your thoughts as we go along. Your input makes this more valuable for everyone. And at the end of today's webinar, we will be selecting one lucky raffle winner to receive 200 off an Excellence in Action program submission or $100 off a Brennan Hall Group Institute. Stay tuned to see if you are the lucky winner. You must be present to win. Now I would like to pass things back to Heidi.
Thank you, Ivy. I appreciate that. And I'm just going to reiterate one thing. It's fun to see the chat for us. It's great to see the questions. Nothing's off the table, so please feel free. We really enjoy reviewing those, and if I can get to any of the questions at the end, I certainly will do that. And if we can't get to the questions, I will get back to you probably by email with answers or communication, so we can make sure that any comments or questions you have do get addressed. So please put those in. Okay, so quick agenda. I'm not going to read through all this. I'll let you glance, but I'll just hit a couple, a couple key points. Performance reviews are like a basic thing in a sense, but they're not. And in this environment, they're becoming more and more critical all of the time, because top talent really care about performance review. Not top talent, maybe they're, not really excited about their performance review, but their top talent, pretty sure, are the people that you want to keep. So performance reviews are, need to stay, in the front and foremost of HR and leadership's minds, and carefully review, are they working? How can they get better? It's very, very important. So just a quick little bit about what's broken in the current model, what most companies are doing today, and why they're failing for most failing for three large groups, but probably even more. Managers for sure, employees for sure, and the business then suffers. So just a quick little bit about what we feel is broken and what we've seen is broken based on our research. And then some realities, why they're not only why they're broken, but why they're stuck. And how that the modern workforce has really caused this to be stuck. But then also there are some trends that are improving things that organizations can and should use. And hopefully maybe that's why you're on here. That's going to be the really exciting part of this. And in particular, I'm just going to give you a little teaser. There is a trend inside of that part of the presentation that I think if you don't know about it, I think you'll find it very interesting. I know I wish I would have known about it back a few years ago. It would have changed things significantly for me, and maybe even improved the business that I was in at the time. So another thing that we didn't used to talk about a lot, a little bit, but inside performance reviews, not really so much. I think it's time that conversation changes. Generational realities, it's huge now. And with the workforce the way that it is, the Gen Zs, the Gen Xs that I am, the baby boomers, even in some cases, the reviews, they expect different things out of these reviews. And that really needs to be considered. And then also I'm going to talk a little bit about a real example from a large real company that did focus on that, what they did, how they did it, and what came out of it, which I think you'll find very interesting as well. Okay, so let's dive in. All right, so I'm not going to stay here for too long, but we talked already just now about why they're so important more than ever. But there's things you have to consider. So forever and ever, performance reviews were a checkbox. Oh, it's that time of the year. Let's review our goals. Did we meet them? How's the performance? And nobody really liked doing them. Mostly people didn't like doing them. So, it's a tough thing to do. And today with AI, skill changes, and the need to keep top talent, it really is one of the most important tools an organization has. And the biggest feedback here is they're more important than ever because they need to align with the business goals. Because if they don't, it's going to hold the organization back. And we need to develop the future leaders. So instead of having performance management about what they did before, it's how can they progress and how can they grow into their future? That's what a lot of younger people are looking for today. That we're going to talk a little bit more about later. Couple of points on this slide, though. Brandon Hall Group research shows that goal setting and employee feedback occurred in more than 8 out of 10 organizations. So people are doing it. They need to. It's good. People expect it. Yet only half say their managers are empathetic or foster well-being. So we're just doing the mechanics, not really the human part. We're going to talk about that too. And we already talked a little bit about, the different career stages and considering that as you move into these performance reviews. Okay, so another poll. What's the biggest challenge with your current performance management process? A, our reviews feel like a compliance exercise, not a real conversation. Are we doing a performance review? Check the box. Is that where you're at? Or managers don't have the skills or time to give meaningful feedback. Everybody's doing 3 jobs, everybody's buried. Managers would like to give good performance reviews, but unfortunately, sometimes the performance reviews fall to the back of what they need to do when they're dealing with clients or other fires to put out. So they're not able to give that meaningful feedback. Or 3, there's no clear connection between performance or development. So managers are caring, the conversations they're having, they're having them commonly, but there really isn't a connection between that performance and where they're going to be going in the future. Or 4, our system doesn't work well for all generations or career stages. We do have performance reviews. We talk about SMART goals. We make sure managers do them, but they're really not given much guidance, and they don't work well for the different types of personalities, different ages inside of an organization. So I'll just let people put their feedback in here. So basically what we're seeing is kind of so this is really interesting. We're the middle 2 are where most people are falling. And yeah, so it really seems like the managers, they don't have the time, which that's a tough one. That's a really, really tough one. And I think for the most part, most organizations are there for sure. And then the other half is really falling on there's no clear connection between performance and development, which is another problem and another learn for HR as well as managers that we should be considering. Okay, so the core problem, the uncomfortable truth. Still, in all my research and with leading organizations, the performance management models that exist today, most of them, they're starting to change, but they were designed and they're implemented for a world that really doesn't exist. Work has become dynamic, team-based, dependent on skills, AI, AIA. It just didn't exist 5 years ago. And they're changing every month. I can't even keep up with all the different technologies. It's happening so fast. So the annual reviews made sense. They did. And they're better than nothing, in my opinion. But that was when work was very stable, roles were static, and 12-month cycles could wait. But today, even a couple of years ago when I was doing a lot of performance reviews, we would do a performance review and I'd look at the person's goals and I'm like, wow, you're not even doing those things anymore. And that's getting even worse. So that's something that managers and people in HR and leaders really, really need to think through carefully. So let me talk about what some of our research has shown, because there's some compelling things in here. We already talked about the fact that right now, today, traditionally, most organizations are still just doing that annual review. And it's very misaligned with today's workplace. So we really need to change that first. And there's a lot of things to change, but I would say that should be number 1. Employees don't trust the process, usually. And then this is one that I wanted to focus on. 7 out of 10 say leaders don't take enough time to prepare for reviews. The process isn't broken because people don't care. It's broken because no one's been given the tools. So this is what we're talking about. So as leaders in HR, or people focused around the people part of the business, it's really important to almost force managers to take time to prepare for these reviews. They're pulled in so many different directions. They know these people, they know their performance, so they don't prepare. And that really is a problem in this day and age. The other thing I'm going to touch on is performance data in a lot of organizations. I don't think all, but in many, many, many. The performance review happens. The performance review is great. Everybody's happy with it, but then it ends and it doesn't go anywhere. And so when leaders on other places of the organization need to make talent decisions or hiring decisions, they don't even see the performance data that was happened somewhere else. It doesn't flow up. It's just siloed, which is another thing that is really not good for the organization. It's not good for the business, and it hurts. So, despite this, what we found, 68% of organizations still weigh current performance. I'm not going to read this because the point of this one is that organizations traditionally have said, hey, how have you done for the last year? What have you done? Did you accomplish your goals? That's a typical are they SMART goals? Did you perform them? And that's really not what the current work environment is about. It's about, okay, yes, are you doing your work? Are you doing your work well? Did you get some of your goals done? But what are you going to do in the future? Where do you want to go? What is your performance? What are you looking to do in 3 to 5 years, in 6 months? That's how fast things are missing. That's what we used to say, right? 3 to 5 years. You shouldn't say that anymore. So everybody's different, but it's really new, good, solid performance reviews that are happening out there, hold the performance review with a futuristic view in them, not a rear view mode, which is really what I wanted to get to with that bullet. Um, as far as the business costs, I mean, I think that's pretty obvious, so I'm not going to read those. I mean, if people are not happy with their performance reviews, they're not going to come to work the next day really excited. They're going to be depressed. It's hard. And as we talked about earlier, when high performers feel unseen or underdeveloped, guess what? They're going to leave because, especially younger people, if they're not feeling their manager, they're going to start looking for a new job. And then when low performers go unaddressed, it really drags down the team. And even the high performers are seeing that, and they're seeing these performance reviews are not working, and I'm having to do the work of some of these other people, and it's a very negative. It hurts the culture. When performance isn't connected to skills or business goals, and this didn't really, the statement we didn't usually used to say, but it's really caught you're losing the ability to deploy talent. We even talked about that a little bit earlier, where it really matters most. And then this is the most important bullet. So if you're still doing it one time a year, if you're still encouraging your managers, hey, it's that time of the year, it's February, you got to have that performance review or whatever month you do it in, you have lost months of coaching, course correcting, and development that could have changed at any time. I mean, somebody who is driving forward with top performance, maybe it's learning AI and doing things twice as fast and 3 times as much, and you're going to wait 11 months to talk to that person about a performance review, that's going to really cost the business a lot. Okay, so just briefly, let's talk a little bit about younger employees and Gen X's and even the younger millennials versus the more experienced employees. I have a lot of experience with this actually. So for years, maybe 20 years, I managed teams of scientists, engineers, product managers, all with PhDs, getting older. Didn't necessarily, they loved what they did. They were passionate about what they did. They didn't really have they didn't want to be the VP of the business, or they didn't want to grow that much. And that was fine. So my performance reviews turned a certain way, and we did them once a year. And they were fine. But then I actually took on a large marketing organization and was starting to do reviews with younger people. And wow, my eyes were opened. Very, very different expectations. The reviews had to change significantly. And I wish that I would have gotten this guidance from my HR back then. I had to make a very large pivot under very little guidance. So it was tough. But the younger generation, they need that instant feedback. Social media, gaming, streaming, it's a huge retention risk. If they're not getting that, they're going to start looking that somewhere else. So it's a big problem. They also want coaching and not judging. They want to be coached to do the right thing and what the organization wants and understand what the business drivers are. They don't want you to sit in a performance review and judge something that they did before. So that's one of the things some of these younger people want. They want transparency too. They want you to be honest and clear, but they want it forward looking. They really want to understand what you're trying to do and what the business is trying to do and how they can help. They don't want to talk about what happened last month that they can't even remember anymore, probably. On the older side, just a couple things, I actually bolded them. I've done a lot of work with them. They're very different performance reviews. They value stability and clarity. And this I think is really important. So I'm actually going to read a little bit of this. Frequent system changes, new platforms, a new Claude, a new ChatGPT, like this causes friction and disengagement from them. And having a clear discussion with your manager, a performance review about these things and the expectations, it really helps drive stability with them and trust, which is huge for them, where the younger team doesn't need that at all. Another thing that is flows through some of these bullets here is really they don't feel that their expertise and their longer term knowledge and mentorship that they've worked so hard to build over the years and contributed to these companies matters anymore. They don't feel it matters. It does matter, and we know it matters. It matters a lot. So recognizing that and working with them during those performance reviews are really important, where the younger team, again, another thing that they really don't care that much about at all. Another thing that they do concern about, I'm going to use these words, calibration fairness is a real concern. Older workers truly get worried. They truly get worried that they're not being performed based on their value. They're getting reviewed based on how, all these younger people, their agility, the speed, the digital fluency. How do you work the phone? How do you fix my word? It's a real problem. And so the older team are just they feel that they're not being judged fairly. So calibration is a serious issue for the older generation of workers. So what are leading organizations doing differently? This is a really important slide. So we put this slide together based on thousands, literally thousands of award-winning organization. So I want to talk through a little bit. I'm not going to word for word read this, but a few that are really important. There's a couple, when I thought about the goals for this webinar, there's a couple key goals that I really wanted to get across that you should really absorb if you miss some of the other stuff. Continuous feedback. That year performance is not working anymore for anybody, really, in any organization. Monthly check-ins or quarterly for formal reviews need to be changed from the annual, for sure. Development under evaluation. Reviews become more career development, forward-focusing growth. Again, we talked also even the older generations, they don't really want to talk too much about what happened in the past. They want to talk about what do you need to perform in the future. So that's really a big change. AI is a part of this. This scares a lot of people, but organizations are doing it. They're using it in their performance reviews. That's fine. I don't think there's any way around it. Nobody's going to change that any day soon, that's for sure. So being honest with an employee and talking to them about what AI is doing in this performance review, what it did, but then ultimately letting them know that the manager retains the final judgment. We all know that AI is phenomenal, but it makes mistakes. And when it makes human errors based on somebody's career, that's a problem. So it needs to be understood that it will be used, but that doesn't make the final judgment. At Brandon Hall, we talk a lot about skills. We agonized over how this was going to move, but it's amazing how do you have these skills? How do you get these skills? What is the learning needed to get this skill? And can you do it in the workplace? It's really that performance discussion on what skills they have, what they need, how they're going to get them. And then this last one on the top is probably the most important one. I'm not going to read it too much, but the goals really need to be tied to the strategy. The goal should not be write 5 research papers or build this assembly 20% faster, whatever the goal is. What does that mean for the business? What business objective are you meeting by doing that? That's where that goal needs to be, and that's where the performance discussion needs to be. Multi-source feedback. This one is a little bit different. Back years ago, it was you have the manager, you have the set of employees. Fine, and the manager judged them. But we're finding that a lot of the best organizations are adding to that with the people's peers, with their project teams, with a different manager. As they cross-functionally move around, what is the feedback and how well are they a team player with others as well? And they're incorporating that in the feedback and the performance reviews, which I think is great. I'm going to skip past a few of these because I do not want to run out of time, but this is a really important one. Manager coaching investment. It used to be you would get the email from maybe Workday or whoever you're using, and it would say, time to set up your performance reviews. Here's the timeline. Follow the timeline. Did you do it? Did you put it into the system? You really need to you cannot just tell your managers to do the performance reviews. You need to give them some guidance on some of the things that we're talking about. It's critical because they're all so busy and they're not prioritizing most of the time. I guarantee they are not prioritizing this as one of the top things that they need to be doing, and they should. Just one thing to quickly mention. Definitely, I've seen a lot of organizations that the employee sometimes gives their performance review first before the actual performance review. And that can sometimes shift things because sometimes the views can be very different. And it also helps the manager prepare, which is important. So we're seeing a lot of that. And then obviously the hybrid work environment, a lot of people are going back in the office, but a lot of people are hybrid and they will stay hybrid. They do not want to come in every day. So that does impact the performance review as well, and something that should be thought about. Okay, so this is one, this is really, this is probably, this was the secret that I was secret. This is what I was telling you. I think people, I wish I would have known more about this over the years, but one trend that is starting to come up and that companies are seeing huge results from is, and I'm not really going to read this slide, I'll let you guys glance through it, but if you're not doing this, you should. Have your performance review and make it clear that your performance review is important. It's set for your age group. It's set for your career. It's set for your ambitions. It's set for you where you need to be. It is not part of the compensation discussion because many people think, okay, give me my 2.5%. Did I do okay? Great. Bye. I'll see you next year. No, because you don't, that's not the attitude that you really want your employees. You want them to be at their top performance and you want them to perform moving forward tied to their business goals. And if they know ahead of time that they're walking into a performance review and compensation is not going to be in that discussion, it changes the verbiage, it changes the relationship, and it even changes how the manager can actually prepare for the performance review. Because if that manager is being told you can only give that employee 1.5%, they're going to agonize over that. They're not going to agonize over how can I get more out of this person? How can they improve? How can I mentor them? If you separate those two conversations, it's significantly better. So if you're not doing this, I highly recommend you try it. Do a pilot. It's important. Okay, so one of the top awards that we gave out just recently, a few months ago, SOCAR. So SOCAR had this big initiative to change their performance review. They're a huge organization. They have 28,000 employees. They really had a problem. They were getting inconsistent goals. They were once a year, weak alignment. They know their employees had no idea what their business strategies were. So they went and they revamped. They wanted to revamp their entire thing. So they started with, now I want to be clear, this took them a couple of years, by the way, so this isn't something that you would do maybe overnight. But they moved it into 3 stages: planning, high performance coaching, and appraisal, built around continuous dialogue rather than annual events, which we've been talking about the whole time. And I thought this was really interesting. I love this. One of the most innovative things that they did was, I always feel like HR's, that you have to be, this is the date it needs to be done. This is you need to have the information in here. Here's your next day. Here's what you need to do here. They didn't do that. They built a voluntary coach network. So they ended up with 155 coaches that were recruited from HR and the business functions. And each of these coaches supported 10 to 20 managers in real time. It wasn't a formal or mandated role. It was totally voluntary. But they really believed in it and they all did it. They cascaded scorecards from the executive level down all the way to the individual contributor. And that's one thing we didn't talk about much, is that you really need to make sure your CEO, your leadership team, your C-suite, their business goals should be aligned with everybody's in that organization in some ways. And that, that was a big part of what they did as well. I'll let you read a little bit about what they did. It really, it took them a couple of years to get all the way through their program, but they tracked it very closely, like they needed to. But really, I'll read a couple of these. It showed up in the operational results. They did almost a 15% increase in drilling output, 9.2% rise in natural gas exports, improved safety compliance, and a massive reduction in workplace accidents, and performance management drove business outcomes all over the surveys. So it really was a great award. We worked together with them and they did a phenomenal job. And their numbers are amazing. So I just wanted to share that and one of the ways that they did it. And you can read about this. We have all of the details in a case study that's in our institute that Ivy was talking about earlier. Okay, so at this point in time, we are almost done, but I'd be greatly appreciative if you would answer this poll 3. So knowing all this, where would you say your organization is on the performance management journey? Still on annual reviews, but no, we need to change. We've made some changes, but we haven't completely overhauled the system yet, trained the managers. We're actively transforming continuous feedback. It's becoming the norm. That's great. We actually feel we're ahead of the curve compared to most people. We're fully integrated. We've got a strategy around it, and it's all driven around our business goals. So where do you think your organization sits? Okay. I am not surprised at all. So this is great. And this webinar is perfect for you. So I'm so glad you're making me happy because the vast majority of people are saying that they've made some changes, but they haven't overhauled the system yet. So at least you've made some changes, which is great. And hopefully you're learning a little bit more about how to do more and make it to stage 3 or stage 4. So thank you for that. Okay. But not least, we're almost done. But this is important. So just to give you some ideas as to, since you are in that, most of you are in that second stage, I won't go through this. It's a lot of words. I apologize. You're going to get this deck on PDF, so you can read it at your length and underline them or whatever you want to do. Put it through ChatGPT. But the gist of it is diagnose before you design. Survey your employees. Surveys, not a lot of people do surveys, but inside of their own company, they do. Are they trusting what they're saying? What's really broken? Because you can't fix everything at once. So try to figure out and diagnose what you feel is going to be the most important. And that's what SOCAR did, actually. They surfaced the gap and they designed their program around where the biggest gaps were first. Second, increase your feedback frequency first. So it sounded like a lot of you were actually not going to go with about 33% said they have done that, which is great. That's an easy one to do. Well, it's not that easy, but it is an easier one to do, and it should be done as quickly as possible. And you don't have to overhaul systems. You just have to make management realize that they need to get that data in at least quarterly, that it's important. It's important for the business. And then also like do some of those things that we just talked about before buying new technology. There is some great new technology about performance reviews and how to do them, how to get the data in, how to use AI, equipping, we talked about how to guide your managers. Get that started before you really start investing huge into a lot of new technology, but understand that it's out there and it can help you huge. But once you get to this step, and you start getting through it, you'll understand much more clearly what the technology can do for you and if it's going to fit you. Otherwise, you could end up wasting a lot of time reviewing technologies that you may or may not actually need. Then start cascading the business goals throughout the organization. So make the line of sight. This is a huge one that comes through in all of our award winnings, that they make the highest level business goals visible to everybody throughout that organization. That's also really important. And then get the measurement. So you saw on the SOCAR slide that I was showing some of the measurement that they did. This is very, very important. This performance reviews are going to continue to change and evolve as quickly maybe as everything else. And if you're measuring it and your leaders are seeing what you're devoting to it and how it's helping their business, they're going to be there to support you. So keep that measurement coming. So what we found in summary, so this is really my last slide, and I apologize, I am a few minutes over. The organizations that are winning this game are not necessarily the ones with the most sophisticated AI in this case. They're not. Or buying expensive technology platforms all the time. They're the ones that have made performance a genuine, ongoing conversation. So we've talked, that theme has started from the beginning of this conversation and continues to the end. And they invest in their managers because, I probably don't need to tell you guys, but data has always shown for many, many years, it still holds true, that the employee looks to their manager for their performance, not their leadership team, not somebody on, not a VP. It's their direct manager is who they look to. So you need to invest in those managers. They need to connect that individual with the overall business strategy. And once they do that, they can build the trust with their people that makes honest feedback acceptable, okay, and in a growth pattern and really helps the business. So we're over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at all the comments and questions. I apologize, and I will make sure to get back to all of you with answers. Thank you. Ivy, are you still here? I think we're ready to wrap it up.
Yes, I'm going to announce the raffle winner. So I'm thrilled that D. Hughes has won the raffle. I will be reaching out shortly with more details.
Thank you all. Have a good day. Thank you, Ivy. Talk to you soon.